In the vast, wild lands of the American West lived a young woman named Jessie. She was known for her spirit, her quick smile, and most of all, for her magnificent horse, Blaze. Blaze wasn't just any horse. He was a stunning animal with a coat the color of a sunset and a mane like spun gold. His eyes sparkled with intelligence, and his hooves seemed to fly over the ground as if he had wings. Jessie and Blaze were inseparable. From the moment the sun peeked over the mountains until it dipped below the horizon, they were together. Jessie had raised Blaze since he was a small foal. She taught him to trust her, to understand her whispers, and to dance to the rhythm of her heart. He was more than a pet. He was her best friend, her confidant, and her most trusted companion. When Jessie rode Blaze, it wasn't just a girl on a horse. It was a single, graceful being moving across the prairies. They explored hidden canyons, raced against the wind, and watched the eagles soar high above. Their bond was a special kind of magic, a silent promise between a girl and her horse that they would always be there for each other, no matter what adventures the Wild West threw their way. One beautiful afternoon, with the sun warm on her face, Jessie was riding Blaze along a winding trail. The air smelled of sagebrush, and birds sang sweet songs from the cottonwood trees. Jessie felt peaceful and happy, just like any other day with her beloved horse. But suddenly, the peaceful quiet was broken. A rough-looking cowboy burst from behind a cluster of rocks, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He held a shiny, dark gun in his hand, pointing it right at Jessie. "Give me that horse, girl," he barked, his voice as harsh as sandpaper. Jessie's heart jumped into her throat. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped her. She tried to speak, but her words caught in her chest. Blaze, sensing her distress, snorted and pawed the ground nervously. The cowboy moved closer, his eyes hard and cold. He grabbed Blaze's reins, pulling the magnificent horse away from Jessie. Tears welled up in Jessie's eyes as she watched him lead Blaze away. "No, please," she cried, but her plea was lost to the wind. The cowboy didn't even look back. He just rode off, disappearing into the distance with her best friend, leaving Jessie alone, heartbroken, and scared on the dusty trail. The world suddenly felt empty without Blaze beside her. Alone on the dusty trail, Jessie felt a storm of sadness and fury building inside her. Her feet dragged through the dirt as she slowly made her way back home, each step heavy with despair. Hot tears streamed down her cheeks, blurring the path ahead. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, seemed to mock her, reminding her of the silence where Blaze's familiar hoofbeats should have been. Her heart ached with a pain she'd never known, a deep, hollow feeling from the loss of her dearest companion. But mixed with the overwhelming sorrow was a fierce, burning anger. How could someone be so cruel? How could they just take her best friend, her partner, her very shadow, without a second thought? The image of the rough cowboy and his cold gun flashed in her mind, fueling her rage. She clenched her fists, wishing she had been stronger, faster, anything to stop him. She wanted to scream, to kick, to fight. More than anything, Jessie wanted Blaze back. She pictured his warm breath, his soft muzzle, his playful nuzzle. She vowed right then and there that she would do whatever it took to find him and bring him home. The thought of Blaze being in danger, or worse, with that mean cowboy, made her resolve even stronger. The days that followed the robbery were long and heavy for Jessie. Each morning, she woke up hoping to hear Blaze's familiar whinny, but only silence greeted her. The ranch felt empty, the prairies vast and lonely without her horse by her side. She spent hours gazing out across the fields, her eyes scanning the horizon, always searching, always hoping. She asked everyone she met if they had seen a beautiful, fast horse with a golden mane, but no one had any news. Weeks slowly turned into a month. The initial fire of anger in Jessie's heart began to fade, replaced by a dull ache of sadness and a growing fear. Had Blaze been hurt? Was he being cared for? Or worse, had he been sold far away, never to be seen again? The thought brought fresh tears to her eyes. She remembered all their adventures, all the quiet moments they shared, and her heart twisted with longing. Doubt began to creep in, whispering that perhaps her beloved Blaze was truly gone forever. It was hard to keep hope alive when each passing day brought no sign, no trace, no whisper of her magnificent horse. The once vibrant world now seemed a little dimmer, a little quieter, without Blaze. Jessie had almost given up hope, her heart heavy with the thought that Blaze was gone forever. But one crisp morning, as the sun painted the sky with soft pinks and oranges, a dust cloud appeared on the horizon. It grew steadily larger, revealing a lone rider approaching her ranch. Jessie rarely received visitors, and her curiosity, mixed with a tiny spark of hope, stirred within her. The rider was a stranger, a young man with a friendly face, leading another horse behind him. As the rider drew closer, Jessie could see he was carrying something large and covered. He dismounted gracefully and walked toward her, tipping his hat. "Morning, ma'am," he said, his voice kind. "Got a delivery here for Miss Jessie." He gestured to the large, bundled shape behind him. Jessie looked at the package, wrapped in coarse canvas and tied with thick rope. It was unusual, much too big for a letter or a simple gift. A strange feeling fluttered in her stomach, a mix of wonder and a tiny bit of dread. Why would someone send her such a thing? And from whom? She felt her breath catch in her throat as she reached out to touch the rough fabric. Jessie's heart pounded as the friendly rider untied the thick ropes. Slowly, carefully, he pulled back the canvas covering. As the last bit of fabric fell away, Jessie gasped. Her eyes widened, and a sound, a mix of disbelief and pure joy, escaped her lips. Standing before her, looking as magnificent as ever, was Blaze. His golden mane shone in the morning sun, his familiar intelligent eyes looked at her, and he let out a soft, happy whinny. It was truly him, her beloved horse, safe and sound, standing right there at her ranch. He looked healthy, even a little plumper than when he was taken, and his coat gleamed as if he'd been brushed with the greatest care. Jessie rushed forward, throwing her arms around Blaze's strong neck. She buried her face in his mane, inhaling his familiar, comforting smell. Tears, but this time tears of happiness, streamed down her face. Blaze nudged her gently with his nose, as if to say, "I'm back, Jessie. I missed you too." The rider smiled kindly at the emotional reunion. After weeks of sadness and worry, her greatest wish had come true. Blaze was home. As Jessie hugged Blaze tightly, her hands ran over his smooth, warm coat. Her fingers brushed against his bridle, and that's when she felt something unexpected. Something hard and cool, dangling from one of the leather straps. She pulled back slightly, her joyful tears still wet on her cheeks, and looked down. There, tied securely to Blaze's bridle, was a small, shiny object. It was a beautiful silver ring. It wasn't a fancy, sparkling jewel, but a simple, elegant band that caught the sunlight. Jessie carefully unhooked it, turning it over in her palm. It felt heavy and real. A small, delicate design was carved into its surface, almost like a tiny star. Her brow furrowed in confusion. Why would there be a ring here? And who would have put it on Blaze's bridle? The friendly rider, who had quietly watched the reunion, now cleared his throat. "There's a note too, ma'am," he said, pointing to another spot on the bridle. Jessie's heart began to beat a little faster. This was becoming more mysterious by the second. First Blaze's return, and now a silver ring and a note. What could it all mean? Guided by the rider, Jessie found a small, folded piece of paper tucked carefully beneath a buckle on Blaze's bridle. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled it out. The paper was slightly creased, as if it had traveled a long way, but the writing on it was clear. She unfolded it and began to read. The words were written in a rough but steady hand. To the girl with the golden horse, it began. Jessie's breath hitched. Only one person had taken Blaze from her. This note was from him. The thief. The one who had filled her days with sadness and her nights with worry. Her eyes quickly scanned the rest of the message. It was short, but every word felt heavy with meaning. A strange mix of fear and curiosity swirled inside her. What could the man who stole her horse possibly want to say? Was it a trick? Was he still out there, watching? As she read on, the words on the paper began to tell a story she never would have expected. This wasn't just a simple message, it was an explanation, a confession, and something else entirely. Jessie's eyes scanned the words, her heart racing with each line. The note began with a heartfelt apology. "I am truly sorry for taking your horse," it read. Jessie blinked, surprised. She had expected threats or boasts, not an apology. The cowboy went on to explain his desperate situation. He wrote that he was being chased by a group of very bad men, and his own horse had been too slow. He saw Blaze, so swift and strong, and in a moment of panic, he took him. He knew it was wrong, he admitted, but he needed Blaze's speed to save his own life. He wrote that Blaze had indeed carried him to safety, outrunning the dangerous men. Throughout their journey, the cowboy had seen how special Blaze was, how brave, how loyal. He realized the deep bond between Jessie and her horse, and how much pain he must have caused her. He ended his explanation by saying that he knew taking Blaze was a terrible thing to do, and he regretted it deeply. He wanted to make things right. Jessie stood there, the paper trembling slightly in her hand. It was an apology, a real one, from the man who had stolen her best friend. She still felt a pang of anger, but also a flicker of something new: understanding. As Jessie continued to read, the note shed light on the beautiful silver ring she now held in her hand. The cowboy wrote that the ring was more than just a peace offering, it was a special gift. He intended it to be a symbol of his deep apology, a small token to show how truly sorry he was for the fright and sadness he had caused her. But more than that, he wrote, the ring was to honor Jessie herself. He mentioned that even though he had been in a hurry and afraid, he had noticed how brave Jessie was when he took Blaze. She hadn't screamed or tried to run away, she had stood her ground, even while scared. He respected her courage and her fierce love for her horse. The ring was meant to show that respect. He ended the note with a hopeful plea, asking for her forgiveness. He knew he didn't deserve it, but he hoped that by returning Blaze, healthy and with a gift, he might earn a little bit of it. Jessie looked from the note to the shining ring, then to Blaze, who gently nuzzled her hand. Her mind raced with all these new ideas. It was a strange situation indeed. Jessie stood between Blaze and the friendly rider, the note in one hand and the silver ring in the other. Her mind buzzed with a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings. Of course, she was incredibly happy to have Blaze back. Seeing his bright eyes and feeling his soft fur against her cheek filled her with immense relief and joy. But alongside that happiness was a deep sense of confusion. It was so strange. The man had stolen Blaze at gunpoint, a terrifying act that had caused her so much sorrow. Yet, he had sent Blaze back, healthier than before, with a sincere apology and a beautiful gift. It wasn't what she expected from a thief. Was he truly a bad man, or had he simply been desperate, as his note claimed? His actions didn't seem to fit together. How could someone who did something so cruel also be capable of such thoughtfulness? Jessie felt her brow furrow as she tried to make sense of it all. It was hard to be angry at someone who had returned her most precious possession, especially with an apology and a sign of respect. But it was also hard to forget the fear she had felt that day on the trail. She just didn't know what to think about the mysterious cowboy. Despite her swirling thoughts about the cowboy, Jessie's gaze kept returning to Blaze. She gently stroked his golden mane, her fingers tracing the familiar lines of his strong neck. He had been through so much. He had been taken from his home, forced to carry a stranger away from danger, and then traveled all the way back. Yet, he stood there, proud and calm, looking even more magnificent than before. A wave of immense pride washed over Jessie. Blaze was not just a beautiful horse, he was incredibly strong and brave. He had faced fear and uncertainty, just like she had, and he had come through it all. He hadn't been hurt, he hadn't lost his spirit, and he had returned to her as loyal and loving as ever. Blaze truly was special, a horse of extraordinary courage and heart. Jessie felt a renewed sense of awe for her companion. This adventure, though scary, had only shown her how truly remarkable Blaze was. He was a survivor, a hero in his own right, and her love for him grew even deeper. She knew then that their bond was something truly unbreakable, capable of withstanding anything the Wild West could throw their way. From that day forward, Jessie kept the silver ring close to her heart. It was a constant reminder of the strange, scary, and ultimately heartwarming adventure she and Blaze had shared. She often wore it on a leather string around her neck, a small, shiny secret that only a few knew the true meaning of. While she never saw the mysterious cowboy again, she always wondered about him. Was he truly a changed man? Had he found peace after his brush with danger? The answers remained a mystery, just like the vast, open West itself. The story of Jessie, Blaze, and the silver ring spread slowly across the prairies, whispered from one campfire to another. It became a legend, a tale of a stolen horse returned, an unexpected apology, and a unique gift. People spoke of the golden horse and the brave girl, and the cowboy who, despite his desperate act, showed a flicker of goodness. It was a story that reminded everyone that even in the wildest of times, with good people and bad, there could still be surprising turns and acts of kindness. And so, the legend lived on, carried by the wind and the memories of those who heard it, forever etched into the folklore of the Wild West.